Have you ever wondered what number would actually let you walk away from work and never look back? Not the dream number that people throw around online, but the real amount that would let you retire comfortably, without fear, and without feeling like you gave up your best years just to keep saving. Everyone tells you that you need millions, 2, 3, maybe even $5 million. But very few people stop to ask, what do real people actually spend in retirement? Because the truth is, retirement is not one single event. It's a living, breathing process that changes as you change. You don't spend the same at 55 as you do at 75, and the way your money behaves over time depends on when you start using it, how long you let it grow, and what parts of your life actually cost the most as you age. So today we're not going to talk about random financial rules or vague formulas that don't apply to anyone. We're going to talk about real numbers, based on real spending data, and find out exactly how much you'd need to retire at 55, 60, 65 and 70. And by the end of this, you'll understand something that most people never realise, that the real number might be much lower than what you've been told, and that your dream of freedom might not be as far away as it feels right now. So take a guess of this number in the comments, and then compare with the real number. Let's start with the early adventurers, the ones who want to retire at 55. Picture this. You've been working for 30 years, maybe more. You've built your career, raised your kids, paid your mortgage, and you finally reach that point where the days feel longer, the weekends feel shorter, and you start asking yourself if there's more to life than doing this for another decade. You're still young, you're healthy, and you want to enjoy the world while you have the energy to explore it. But then the fear hits you. Can I afford it? Now, most people hear the number retire at 55 and instantly assume it's impossible. But when we look at the data and not the fear, we see something very different. Fidelity's real spending data shows that the average couple in their mid-50s spends about $83,000 per year. That's not extravagant. That's a comfortable life. A few vacations, dinners out, a car payment or two, maybe helping out the kids here and there. It's not lavish, but it's full of life. Now imagine that you stop working at 55 and Social Security doesn't start until at least 62. That means your investments have to completely replace your income for 7 full years. This is what financial planners call the bridge period. You're living entirely off what you've saved before any benefits kick in. To make that happen safely, assuming your investments earn around 4% a year, and you're withdrawing a conservative 3%, you'd need about $600,000 just to cover that first phase of retirement, from age 55 to 61. That's your foundation, the money that bridges you from work life to benefit life. But the good news is, it doesn't stop there. At 62, Social Security begins to kick in. For a married couple, that can mean about $28,000 to $29,000 per year in guaranteed income. That changes everything. Suddenly your portfolio doesn't have to do all the work. Now you can withdraw far less from your savings to maintain the same lifestyle. For that next phase, ages 62 to 64, you'd only need about $130,000 more from your investments. And as you move into your mid and late 60s, something else happens. Your lifestyle starts to naturally slow down. You travel a little less, you go out less often, maybe you've paid off your house, maybe you don't need the big car anymore. Your expenses drop, not because you're forcing yourself to save, but because life itself becomes simpler. And also your income will rise if you do the right things, like opening a YouTube channel, since YouTube is on easy mode now, and I can help you directly if you join my free Telegram community with the link below. For ages 65 to 74, your total spending might fall closer to $70,000 per year, and for that period, you'd need around $160,000 more from your portfolio. Then for the later years, 75 and beyond, your spending might fall even further, and you'd only need around $70,000 more to keep living comfortably for the rest of your life. Add it all together, and you get around $965,000. Let's call it $1 million, just to be safe. Now pause for a second and really let that sink in. Retiring at 55, something that feels like a fantasy to most people, could actually be possible with less than $1 million. It's not a guess, it's not a clickbait number. It's a data-based projection using real-life spending patterns and real returns. And the reason it works is because people don't live like spreadsheets. When you retire, your spending follows you, not your income. You stop buying work clothes, commuting, eating out for lunch every day, paying for things that only made sense when you were working. You start living slower, and that makes your retirement dollars stretch further. So what does that look like in real life? Let's take Alex and Veronica as an example. They're both 55. They've saved just about $1 million in a mix of index funds, a small pension, and some cash. Their kids are grown, their mortgage is nearly paid off, and they want to spend the next 10 years travelling around the country in an RV. They look at these numbers and realise they don't need to wait another decade. They can retire now, live off around $40,000 to $45,000 per year for the first 7 years, let Social Security fill in the rest after 62, and still have a healthy portfolio left growing in the background. They're not living recklessly, they're living intentionally. And for them, that's the difference between someday and now. But not everyone wants to retire that early. Some people feel more comfortable waiting a little longer, maybe until 60. And believe it or not, those 5 extra years can completely change your financial picture. When you retire at 60, you're still young enough to enjoy life, but you've added 5 more years of saving and investing, and your portfolio has had more time to grow. Plus, you only need to cover 2 years before Social Security starts at 62. So, if you spend roughly the same $83,000 per year, those 2 years would require about $188,000 from your portfolio. Then once your benefits begin, your portfolio withdrawals drop dramatically because part of your income is now covered by Social Security. During that next phase, you'd need about $160,000 more. By the time you hit your mid and late 60s, spending naturally declines. Maybe you decide to downsize, maybe you stop travelling as much, maybe you replace that second car with something smaller and cheaper to maintain. Over that next decade, from 65 to 74, you'd need around $224,000 more from your investments. And then for the later years, after 75, your withdrawals might total around $100,000 more. When you add it all together, it comes to roughly $677,000. That's all you'd need to retire comfortably at 60. That's nearly $300,000 less than the 55-year-old retiree, simply because you worked 5 more years, earned a little longer, and reduced the number of years your investments need to fully carry you. But here's the interesting twist. If you retire at 60, but choose to wait until 67 to claim Social Security, your benefits increase dramatically. Instead of getting $1,200 per month each, you could receive around $1,700 each. That's an extra $10,000 per year in guaranteed income for life. Of course, you'd need to bridge those extra 7 years without benefits, which raises your total portfolio need to around $750,000. But even then, you've created a different kind of security. One that pays off in your 70s, when you might care more about stability than adventure. So really, this becomes a personal decision. Would you rather retire sooner with a smaller guaranteed income later, or work a few more years for higher benefits and less stress later on? There's no wrong answer, only what fits your life best. Think of Veronica and Alex. Both are 60, both healthy, both with around $700,000 saved. Veronica wants to retire now and start living. Alex wants to wait until 67 to maximise their Social Security. They decide on a middle ground. Veronica retires first and claims early. Alex keeps working a few more years. Together they build a plan where she gets time, he gets security, and both get peace of mind. That's the real secret of retirement. It's not about one perfect number, it's about aligning your money with your values and your timeline. And when you plan using real spending data, not arbitrary formulas, you realise that retiring earlier than you thought might actually be within reach. When most people picture retirement, the number that pops into their head isn't 55 or 60, it's 65. That's the traditional mark, the age that for decades symbolised freedom. It's when Medicare begins, when you're close to full Social Security, and when society quietly says, you've done enough. But for many people today, 65 doesn't feel like the finish line anymore. It feels like the moment to finally start living on their own terms. So let's find out what retiring at 65 really looks like when you base it not on guesswork, but on the way people truly spend their money as they age. By 65, the game changes. Your largest expenses, your mortgage, your kids, your career-related costs, may already be behind you. The pressure of constant saving starts to fade, and for most people, the number they actually need to maintain their lifestyle is far lower than what they ever imagined. The key difference is that at 65, you're not only drawing from your savings, you're also unlocking a much bigger portion of guaranteed income, Social Security. And this time, those monthly checks are much larger than the ones you get at 62. If you retire at 65 and wait until your full retirement age, roughly 67, your monthly benefit could reach around $1,700 each, or $3,400 per month as a couple. That's more than $40,000 per year of guaranteed, inflation-adjusted income, every single year for the rest of your life. It's not enough to live on by itself, but it covers a massive part of your expenses, which means your portfolio only has to do the rest. Let's break it down. For the first 2 years of retirement, ages 65 and 66, before Social Security kicks in, you'd be fully funding your lifestyle from your savings. If you're spending around $65,000 a year, which is close to the national average for that age group, you'd need about $147,000 from your investments to cover that period. That's your short bridge. Then, once your benefits begin at 67, the entire picture changes. You now have consistent income arriving every month, and the income could be even much larger if you start a YouTube channel right now. But oh well, during that next phase, you might decide to keep a small cash cushion, 2 or 3 years of expenses set aside in safer assets like high-yield savings or short-term bonds, just to protect yourself from market drops. The rest can stay invested and growing at a moderate rate, around 6 or 7%. Over the next decade, your portfolio withdrawals might total about $176,000 just to supplement your benefits and keep your spending level steady. And then when you reach your mid-70s, the gradual decline in spending. That Fidelity's data highlights becomes even more visible. You don't travel as much, your hobbies shift, you start to value simplicity over novelty, and your total annual expenses can fall by nearly 20%. At this stage, you'd need roughly $70,000 more from your portfolio to maintain comfort through the later years. Put that all together, and you're looking at a total retirement portfolio of about $395,000. That's it. Less than $400,000, plus Social Security, and you could maintain a perfectly comfortable retirement starting at age 65. Now, it's important to understand that this number doesn't mean you'd be living luxuriously, but it means that with no debt, steady benefits, and moderate investments, you could maintain independence, cover all your needs, and even enjoy life without fear of running out. And for many people, that realization alone changes everything. Think again about Alex and Veronica. Both 65, both ready to call it quits after decades of work. They've saved around $450,000 in their 401ks, and their home is paid off. When they run their numbers, they discover they don't need the $2 million their neighbour keeps talking about. Between their Social Security checks and a modest drawdown strategy, their income easily covers their expenses. So they retire, they downsize to a smaller home near the coast, and they finally have time to spend mornings walking together, volunteering, and enjoying their grandchildren. Their life doesn't look glamorous on paper, but it's full, it's peaceful, and it works. That's the secret most people miss. Retirement isn't about how big your account looks, it's about how well it matches your lifestyle. The people who understand that end up happier, not just wealthier. But let's go one step further. What if you wait until 70? This is where things get interesting, because the longer you wait, the more the math bends in your favour. For every year you delay claiming Social Security past your full retirement age, your benefit grows by about 8%. So if you hold out until 70, your checks can reach about $2,100 each. That's over $50,000 a year for a couple. And that money is guaranteed for life, adjusted for inflation, backed by the government. At that point, your Social Security alone can cover almost all your core expenses, which means your portfolio hardly needs to move. You've shifted from relying on your savings to letting your savings simply exist as your safety net. Let's look at the numbers. If you retire at 70, you'd only need to bridge a very small gap. Maybe you spend $60,000 per year. Your total portfolio might only need to provide around $79,000 for the first years, and another $25,000 or so later on. A grand total, just over $100,000. That's it. And this is where the story changes completely, because now you've spent more years letting your investments grow, you've paid off nearly everything, and your Social Security benefit has reached its maximum. You've effectively built yourself a personal pension. You could live decades on guaranteed income and still have your savings untouched. Let's imagine a couple. Alex and Veronica from before. You know them at this point. They're both 70, both in good health, and they've been careful savers their whole lives. They waited until now to claim their benefits, and together they're bringing in just over $50,000 a year from Social Security alone. Their expenses with no mortgage are around $55,000 per year. Their investments, about $100,000. That small portfolio is now more of an emergency fund than a lifeline. They travel occasionally, spoil their grandkids, and never worry about outliving their money. They've traded more years of work for more years of stability. And that's really what the decision comes down to. Time versus certainty. Retiring at 55 gives you more time, more experiences, and more freedom, but it comes with more responsibility and more financial risk. Retiring at 70 gives you the opposite. Less time, but far more certainty, far more income, and far less worry about money. In the middle, you find the balance points, 60 and 65, where you can shape your retirement around what matters most to you. Of course, there are still risks no matter what age you choose. The market might underperform early in retirement. Inflation might rise faster than expected. Medical costs could hit harder than you planned. Lifestyle inflation can creep in, especially when you feel rich with a large balance in your account. That's why having a cash buffer, at least 2 to 3 years of living expenses in safer accounts, can save you from making emotional decisions when markets drop. It's also why rebalancing and adjusting spending as you age is so powerful. Real-life retirees who monitor and adapt their habits are the ones who make their money last the longest. And remember, this entire model, this data-driven way of calculating, doesn't include inheritances, part-time income, or rental properties. It's based on nothing more than average household spending patterns and Social Security, which means if you do have those extras, your safety net is even stronger. So when you step back and look at the full picture, it's surprisingly empowering, because retiring comfortably isn't about having the biggest number. It's about knowing your number, the one that fits your timeline, your lifestyle, and your values. Now imagine yourself for a moment. Picture the age that feels right to you. Maybe it's 55, maybe 60, maybe 65 or 70. Picture waking up on a Monday morning with no alarm, no commute, no boss, just quiet. You make your coffee slowly. You open your window and feel the air. And you realise something. This is what all those years of effort were for. Not just the money, but the freedom, the time, the peace, the ability to spend your days how you choose. That's the real meaning of retirement, and it's closer than most people think. Because whether your number is 1,600,000 or even less, what matters most is understanding how it all connects, how your spending evolves, how your benefits grow, and how every choice moves you closer to that quiet morning when you finally don't have to rush anymore. So in the end, retirement isn't about chasing an impossible target. It's about designing a life that matches what you truly value. The data shows that the average retiree spends less as the years go by, that Social Security fills a larger role than people realise, and that patience, not perfection, determines who sleeps peacefully at night. Retiring at 55, 60, 65, or 70 each comes with trade-offs, but every path can work if it's built on awareness, not fear. What matters is understanding your bridge, how to cross from earning to living. If you plan for that, stay flexible and let your spending adjust naturally. Your compounding, your savings, and your time will all work together to create the freedom you've been chasing all along. The secret isn't in the number, it's in knowing what that number means for you. It's in knowing that YouTube is the golden opportunity of this decade, and that could make you retire years later if you do the right things as I teach you. Think about it. If you've made it this far in the video, it means what I'm explaining to you in my free Telegram community works, right? So join with the link below and let me know in the comments if you expect these figures. Subscribe to this channel and see you soon. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.